yes, so welcome. Welcome to heaven. Lighting in here is great. Yes, so hello. Okay, so this video, I hope that I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. So I'm really gonna try to cut at the main points pretty much of uh my transition and detransition timeline. I kind of just like haphazardly put this all together. I just wanted to get this video out. Um, so, uh, this is going to be split into the first section is what was going on in my mind pre-trans that made me think in my kid logic that, oh yes, this is what I should be. And like when I've looked back at it and re-examined it, I've been like, what was I thinking? Like that actually doesn't make any sense. But in my head, I was like, oh yeah, duh, this is what all boys do when they grow up. No. In any case, so yeah, so it's pre-trans, during the transition, and what I was kind of going through, mostly on a physical level, a little bit psychologically, but mostly physical. And then I'll briefly kind of do the post-trans thing. And it feels weird because I'm kind of reiterating some things that I've already said in previous videos, but I'm gonna have to act like people don't know. It's weird. Anyway, so the first thing that I thought of while I was doing my hardcore Wikipedia research on transgenderism, if that's what I'm just gonna call it. I don't know if that's like a legitimate term, but anyway, uh, I mean, I know that growing up, I wasn't really thinking about gender that much. I wasn't, I didn't go out of my way to wear certain clothes that were male. The only clothes that I really avoided were just dresses and skirts. And the one time that I ever wore a skirt was a skort. I think that's what you call them. It's where you have the skirt, and then underneath the skirt is a pair of shorts, pretty much. And I like this one in particular because it was camo, and boys like camo, right? So I didn't really end up wearing that one too much because it was still a skirt. But yeah, I didn't really wear anything particularly masculine. It would look kind of bland, I guess. I mean, I'd get them definitely from the girls section, and they were pretty feminine, and it's not like I dislike them. Like, I don't know, there's two other things that I can mention here, and one of them is my hair story. I don't know what that means. Uh, I like when I thought about it a little bit, I'm like, it kind of doesn't really make sense because hair is just hair. And I guess at the time I wasn't thinking oh, I want really short, 1 inch length hair because my brothers would get it and I would want it because my hair my hair was really long. It went down to my mid back, and I have curly hair, obviously, naturally, and um, I would never brush it as a kid, so only my parents would do it, and you know, a lot of kids don't really keep up with self grooming because they don't really understand the point of it, and so me, I was just like, I'm up. Don't touch my hair. It hurts when you touch it. I'm gonna go on my merry way, and it's just running around with a rat's nest. That's what my parents called it, a rat's nest on my head all the time, which was very insulting. But it was that, and but like, I felt chained down to my hair at the time because it was just like my parents would get these detangle products and then they would, go grab one of those detangle combs or something. It was like a specialized comb, I guess. And they would just yank the tangles out of my head. And they would have to do this like probably every day, I think. And, a kid going through that and it hurts and you're like yanking on it really, really hard. Like, of course, the kid's going to be like, I hate my hair. Just remove it altogether. Damn it. Yes, they swear too. Ah! Yeah, she never wanted me to cut my hair. She always wanted it to just be long because of some stuff in her past with her own hair. So she wanted me to uh, enjoy, enjoy my long hair at the time. I get it, of course, but at the time I was like, ah, it hurts. Stop it. And that kind of frustration later. Ooh, there's a bee outside. Good thing I'm in here. I finally got my hair cut to about chin length, so shorter than it is now. In freshman year of high school, because I guess how I convinced my mom was like, it's a brand new, it's a new start. I just graduated from middle school, so give me this thing. I don't know what I said, but she was like, you know what? Okay, yeah, let's do it. But it has to be like you can only cut off X amount of inches of hair, and it has to be done by like a professional person. And I was like, okay, that's fair bargain, I guess. Yeah, so my hairdresser had my hair totally straight because I don't remember when I discovered the straightening iron, but I knew that it was when I did discover it. I did notice that uh, uh, combing and brushing and stuff was so much easier because curls more attract tangles. Yeah, so she gave me a bob, which I have a couple photos of those pictures, or sorry, a couple photos of when I had that kind of hair, and it was okay, but I wanted it to be way shorter. I wanted it to be like I said, like an inch long, and then um, outside of hair, um, because that wasn't my only issue. I was still uncomfortable with wearing like very obviously feminine clothing, like skirts and dresses and whatever. I don't know what else I classified as feminine, masculine, to be honest, but clothing being on my mind. Freshman year, I joined orchestra because I'd been in orchestra in middle school. Since we were in high school, we were getting to that more like professional sort of, you have to look a certain way during concerts. And we were meant to have fitted uniforms, so we would get measured, and the boys had basically a suit. I don't really remember the details, but it was suit, trousers, I think there was a blazer. And then the girls, I don't remember the top, but it was definitely something black, because, that's the refined orchestra, right? Whereas the band is like, we have wind instruments, we're loud, we're gonna wear bright shirts. The girls wore these really long skirts that went down to about either mid calf or ankle. I don't really remember, but when this was like introduced to me, I was devastated. I was like, "Oh no, I can't do that. I don't want to wear a skirt." I was mortified. So I go up to my teacher and I'm like, and I request to have fitted trousers instead. And I mean, can you blame me though? It was butt ugly. It was a butt ugly skirt. The trousers, I guess, look better, but In any case, I was thinking, oh gosh, I don't want that feminine thing. I don't want to be feminine. Get that away from me. I'm not entirely sure if I was in the mind of, I gotta look like a boy. But I guess I was in the mind of just, I'm a tomboy, please. Ugh. I gotta continue that, man. You know, I gotta have the image. Come on, teach. In any case, um, yeah. So I requested that, and she just looks at me like a confused something or other, and she kind of, I think she like scowled a little, and she's just like, if I allow you to have the trousers, then like, what about other girls who want, like, what if they start lining up and wanting trousers as well? And which was kind of a little weird. Like, I don't know how many girls wanted the trousers, and it's just like kind of says something about the skirts a little bit. Not even just gender, but just like it just kind of says something. Like, you know they're ugly, and you know that they hate it too. But in any case, that was her weird logic, and I don't know what I said, but I convinced her. Um, and she was like, "Okay, we'll have you fitted trousers," and that's what I had. And I was just like, I did it, accomplished. And yeah, so like outside of that, this is my not like other girls section, which like totally like blew all that out of the water. It was just like, this is the main reason. This is what I was thinking of. And so being tomboyish, and you know, looking back on it now, it's like obviously this is kid logic. It's not actually really much of a gendered thing, but I thought of it as that. And jeez, I'm not like other girls. I play video games. I don't like pink. I don't like dresses. I like being really funny. Because, you know, no girls are funny, right? And no, we'll get into that in a second. I didn't like makeup, you know. I wasn't super into like attracting boys like the other girls were. And I can't say I was like one of those girls who were like, oh, I'm not like other girls. I like climbing trees. Cause I mean, I climbed trees a little bit, but I wasn't like, I'm gonna climb them all the time. Like, my mom probably like climbed way more trees than I did. But I hated it, kind of. It was because of the tree sap. It's just, I hate tree sap. I still hate it today. I hate the smell of it. It's sticky. It's really hard to get off. And I was like, I don't know. There's like a certain behavior that like typical girls had. And to me, I guess, in my perspective, it was like really polished, had good etiquette kind of thing. They had like a softness about them. And they were like kind of really like sweet. And just kind of like reserved and like put together, you know, pristine. And then meanwhile, I'm a sack of potatoes. Just, I thought like I was like not well groomed. I thought I was like kind of dirty. Uh, Not as, I was more rough around the edges, if you will. You know, I wasn't as polite. I wasn't as pristine and polished and like, how do you do? I don't know. But on the funny thing, I wanted to be like really funny, like my um, girl space friends were like, of course they had their jokes here and there, but it wasn't like a competition on like unlike boys who would like really try to make each other laugh. Girls, at least the ones that I was associating myself with, didn't do that. So I thought I was hot stuff because I made people laugh so much, you know. And I thought that was like a very masculine thing because I noticed certain stuff, I guess. And on emotional stuff. Like other girls would be really reactionary to certain things. Like I have one example. It's a loose one, but when you're like in class and the electricity like just randomly shuts off for whatever reason, because maybe there's like a storm suddenly comes on, or whatever, or a squirrel bites a very important wire, and so it all shuts down. And then there's always at least one girl that screams really loud because she's like, ah, oh my god, it's dark, even though we have windows. And I always thought that reaction was so stupid. Why are you so weak? So I thought myself a superior because I didn't react like that. I didn't want to scream. I was composed, and that's apparently a masculine thing to do, I guess. So I thought I was superior to that. And a lot of this, probably all of this, is I'm so superior. Masculinity is so good. Being a girl is weak. But that was basically my attitude. Yeah, that was the simple stuff that went on in my head. But when I finally discovered trans, here's the other section. When I finally discovered transgenderism, which was in sophomore year, I think it was toward the beginning of the year, sometime after February, I think. I was, looking through the Tumblrs and going on my heavy-duty Wikipedia search and finding that this, and I self-diagnose. And I think I was like maybe too like depressed, or like I thought nobody really understood me, so I didn't really go up to anybody and say like, hey, can we like talk about this thing? Like, I mean, I pretty much came from kind of a broken home, so I felt like I couldn't really trust anybody to talk to. Even though I could, but I just at the time I was thinking, no, I can't go up to anybody and talk about this. I'm just gonna look at it, and I am very smart, so I'm just gonna go with this Wikipedia or WebMD or whatever I was looking at, and being like, yeah, see, that's what the internet said, so I must be that. Yeah, so when I came out to them, I don't remember like how long the process was of me trying to convince myself, but eventually, probably soon enough, uh, I tell, I, I don't remember who I told first, like my friends or my family, but either way, they accepted me. My friends didn't question it at all. I mean, maybe good or bad, whatever, but my family, I mean, of course, I was like, woohoo, my friends just accepted it. No questions asked. But my family was like, you know, took like a triple take, They didn't literally, but they were like, what? They just, they didn't see what I saw. It just came out of nowhere. And although my oldest brother was just kind of like, nah, I accept it. He didn't really care. And then my other older brother, who was younger than him, and my mom questioned it right away. They're like, you don't really like, you don't have those guy vibes, Because I'm like a trans man and a cis man have like a very certain vibe about them that you can tell they are dudes. I didn't have that, but I didn't know what it was. I just went with, well, I feel kind of masculine. In any case, I didn't really like the reaction, obviously. Why can't you just go with my whims? And because they like questioned it, and also because as time went on after I came out, they fumbled on my social male name that wasn't legally changed yet, obviously, and they would fumble on my pronouns, and I'd get very like furious at them, be like, why do you have to do this? Why can't you just get it right? And, there was a lot of tension with that. Having my teachers, I guess I'm getting a little far ahead of myself. It's all like interlinked with each other, so it's kind of hard to be like a straight timeline. Yeah, so I changed my name socially, which I don't I don't want to repeat this name. Yeah, so I did that socially, and I would go to my teachers before or after class, for attendance and stuff, and I wanted my teacher to be saying this name instead. And I don't remember if they were like, no, I can't do that, or they just accepted it. I don't really remember how much I struggled with it, but I struggled definitely on, I have to go up to my teachers and I'd tell them something like kind of, like, so, but yeah, I went up to them and did that, and then I'm pretty sure most of them just accepted it right off the bat. So um, at some point, I don't know what I said to my mom, but I also convinced her that I wanted even shorter hair, and I went back to that same hairdresser, and I think my bangs are pretty much like the length of what it was back then. I have pictures of that too, so. And I was like, I loved it. I loved the look of it, but I think I wanted it even shorter than that because I was like, this isn't boy hair yet. Boy hair is like a half an inch. This is a pixie cut. This is for girls. Yeah, so I did that with my hair, and then that felt really good because I was just like, I was one step closer to looking really male, even though my face and my body, my hands, my feet, my everything betrayed that. But who cares? Whatever. Uh, and I was also like doing my research at the time too, and trying to like go into resources on FTM stuff, and I found uh, like I couldn't. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I couldn't afford a binder just yet, but I would not recommend this to other FTMs out there if you're listening. But I use like those medical bandage things, in the rolls that are like made out of some kind of fabric. They're not gauze, but most of them are. They come in beige. I twisted that around my chest, and it did make it flatter, of course. Not that I had much going down here anyway, but and then my mom helped me like donate all my old feminine clothes, which, like, let's be a little bit real here. It needed to go out anyway because, that's middle school clothing, that's freshman year. You need to get rid of that. But instead of replacing it with young adult girl clothes, let's replace it with boy clothes. And I would wear mostly like flannel, but with my face shape and stuff, and all the rest of my body, like I just look like a lesbian. I was wearing lesbian flannel basically, even if I had got it from the male section. Whatever, that's what you look like. And even the hand-me-downs that my brothers gave me, it still looked like I was just some little girl going around, woohoo! I look so manly. Yeah, then I would like uh, steal my I would steal my older brother's underwear, which is a little weird when I think back on it. Like, is that really the right thing to do? Okay, so one important bit, actually, when I was looking at other FTM, I don't want to say influencers, other people to look up to at the time. Uh, Most notably, Skylark11, who hasn't updated his channel in 2 years, so you can check him out though. He still has all his videos out. But I really loved his channel and how he was going, how he was presenting it, and which inspired me to like, uh, among other people on Tumblr, other FTMs on Tumblr, uh, they would all post uh, progression photos of like, this is 1 week on testosterone, this is 2 weeks, this is 1 month, this is 2 months, yada yada, etc., etc., etc. And they would do this for probably over a span of a couple years. And so I started doing that. I started taking photos of my progress, which I'll have those photos overlaid. And then I remember, like, while I was looking at these people, these FTMs, getting like surgeries and stuff, I started feeling like really jealous, or no, envious of how they could afford it and then they got it what they wanted or what they needed. And I felt so jealous of that. And reflecting back on it, it's like, if you felt jealous of something or envious of something, then you probably don't need it. And, looking back, I can say, like, I definitely didn't need it. So I think that's a pretty good piece of advice when it comes to feeling jealous about something. So I did at some point change my name legally, which I think was in junior year, and that's when I cut my hair even shorter. I changed my whole name, every single aspect of it, because uh, like, I changed my last name to what my mom's is technically right now. And then I changed my middle name because it was a girl's name. I changed it back to what it was before now, but uh, I can say the middle name. It was, I don't, like, I went on to behindthename.com to their, like, random name generator. I'm like, that sounds good. And, I read the whole name outside. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty nice. But I had no attachment to it at all. I could have went with, like a relative, a male relative of mine, and then put it there, but I wasn't thinking, I guess. So I used, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Arden or Ardan, but that's what I used. Uh, uh, Not that it was ever used ever, but it was mostly like having it on my state ID, having the whole thing printed out. I wanted, not that I was showing it off anywhere in at any point, but I just wanted to be thorough, and that's what I changed it to. It was probably the very beginning of junior year, sometime during junior year after I cut my hair and stuff. I finally bought a binder, which uh, I should have bought two different types, but I got one of those muscle shirt kind of things, white, which eventually turned yellow because because I barely washed it. I bit my tongue. No, I washed it. No. um, I didn't wash the medical thing, thinking it would like unravel if I did. But in any case, yeah. So I finally got a binder, and I felt really good about that because that felt like more professional trans. It felt, more comfortable, obviously. So anyway, I finally, as I was doing my research, they were saying if if you're gonna get onto hormones, or I think also surgery as well, you need to get into therapy, and you need to do it for at least a year, and then you need to pass the test, and then, as if they know, you need to pass the test, and then you need to have your therapist uh, write a letter to a doctor who can do the okay on it, and then the doctor would prescribe you something that gets past the insurance stuff. And so therapy was I want to be short with this. My therapist was pretty bad, putting it short. So not a very good therapist. Not even just as a gender therapist, but just as a therapist in general. Like, number one, uh, my mom talked to her uh, behind the scenes, and she was telling her, my therapist, she's going through these things, but I it's not really what she's saying it is. There's a different reason why it's going on, and I want you to. She didn't word it like this, but basically, I want you to like challenge her on it. And my therapist was just like, uh, get out of here, transphobe." I don't know what was going on in my therapist's head, but basically, she dismissed my mom, which really obviously, was irritating. And then, uh, and then and she didn't even ask me like good, like gender kind of stuff. She just had me like say stuff about. All I remember is I was telling her about my past, and I remember crying a little bit about it, and then she'd just be like, well, all right, well, it's been an hour, so you gotta go. And then I'd just be like walking back home with this gaping psychological wound, and she wouldn't do anything about it. She never told me anything about how to cope with these things. She just went like, "Oh, okay, all right, the tissue. All right, get out of my office." Basically, that's what she did. And I think this was like, looking back, I'm like, this was a sign. I think that at the time when I was a teenager, I was like, this is great. This is like a blessing. Uh, so that building, the building that her office was in, burned down, which meant that I didn't need to go to therapy anymore. Even though I could have quit it at some point, or my mom could have said, "Let's get to a different therapist," but none of that happened. We waited for it to burn, I guess, and then I was free. And then my mom did her own research on the side. I did therapy for like a couple months. I didn't do it for a full year, and I didn't even get like a note. But yeah, so my mom went and did her research, and then found like this trans youth support group. And so we go there probably about a total of 3 times. And I didn't really want to be there because I felt like it was another hoop that I had to jump through. And that's why I also didn't want to be in therapy, because I just thought it was a roadblock. Even though it was necessary, uh, with a better therapist for sure, would have been much better. But in any case, Uh, yeah, so I didn't really like connect with anybody, which is probably another sign. Like, I didn't really feel like, oh, yes, these other FtMs that I'm surrounded by, oh, we can all just, be in solace, comfort each other because we're both going through a very similar thing. But no, I was just like, I'm just here to, get some information. And so the parents were like outside of the group. Uh, they were all mingling with each other as well. And then my mom got like a lead on a doctor who was like really trans friendly. And so the moment we got that was the moment we didn't go back to that support group. I guess my mom didn't like it either. And this doctor basically just like burst through the room, and I was like, "Give me the drugs." And my doctor's like, "Sure." and he just didn't need a letter. He didn't need anything. I didn't even need to like tell him what was going on in my mind. I just said, "I want it. I'm trans. Give me it." And then he's like, "Okay, here you go." And then he pokes my butt with this needle with a very low dose. And then I was on my merry way, and I was so like, yes, I finally got it. Yes, no more hoops, no more wasting my time, no more this, that, and the other. Uh, and so as time was going on, I think it was like 3 to 6 months, my voice finally dropped, and I felt really good about that. That was the main thing that I was excited about. And because then my male friends that I had made in school, they were like, "Oh yeah, you're a late bloomer," which in my mind was, I succeeded, I passed the entire time, and now they totally believe me. Woo! Go team! Yeah, so outside of the doctor stuff and keeping track of all these things, um, and I was writing it down too, writing down all the progress as well, and even trying to illustrate it, what things were looking like and changing and stuff. Of course, like I wanted to like mention dysphoria. I didn't really have it. Like I didn't have bottom dysphoria. I only had breast dysphoria. I wasn't thinking about my hands or feet or really anything else. I was just my breasts, really. I thought that was the thing that was really awful. I did get a consultation for top surgery with a surgeon, and um, I do think that this was also kind of a sign where the surgeon seems so callous to me. Like she just like poked and prodded at my chest, been like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and this is what's gonna happen." And Bob's your uncle, basically. And because I didn't really feel like really super good about that, it didn't really feel like I was in super good hands. I think that was a sign that I shouldn't be doing this. And, luckily I never went through with it because, I didn't have the money. And then for bottom dysphoria, I didn't have any. So, but I was like, oh, I should buy a packer so I could like kind of emulate it. But I ended up not really wearing it because like nobody's really gonna like touch me down there or whatever. And I'm not really gonna look at it. Nobody else is going to be looking at it, but and I did think at one point to get one of those little funnel things that women use to stand to pee. And I was also like, I was thinking of getting, I think it's called a hysterectomy, where you take all the gibbly bits within the vagina and remove all that. I was totally, in my teenage mind, totally okay with it because I was completely uninterested in having any children, which was another reason why I thought that I was trans, because I wasn't interested in it at all, because I was like a girl thing. Girls like babies. And uh I believe I didn't really think about it too much because it wasn't really part of the aesthetic that I was trying to pull off at the time, which I'm pretty sure was the only thing I was going for, just the visual. I don't really care about much of anything else. Yeah, so I know this isn't the full picture, but whatever. That was the bulk of the trans thing that was going on in my mind. That's what I was doing physically. Okay, so post trans, after I was like finally like, okay, I'm not trans anymore, I was, for a really long time, I was okay with just calling myself androgynous, and I still wasn't quite. I didn't feel right calling myself female because I mean, obviously I didn't look like it, I didn't sound like it, I didn't feel like it either, and but because I was mostly at home during this time, this was like right after graduation, I was mostly at home, and I didn't have to interact with really anybody. Uh, I like told myself, because I was androgynous, oh, I like my voice, I like the way that it is, so I think I'm just gonna keep it, even though I kind of hate it. And then I was growing out my hair right immediately afterward. I do have plenty of photos of me trying to uh, get back onto the normal saddle, which I'll show, of course. And then, uh, and most of these photos, I just look so sad because it's just like, I wouldn't say I hated myself, but I was just like, I was in a really bad place mentally. I mean, I was going through like a lot of household stuff and family stuff, but I was also going through a bunch of hormonal changes, and so my emotions were going everywhere, and the dreaded periods coming back. So that's also making me go up and down and up and down with my emotions. So it was a total roller coaster ride for that. And then uh, but on top of that too, though, was the whole I made a mistake and I'm meant to now like uh, admit fault and try to swallow my pride. And also because I had made such a fuss about passing and having my pronouns be changed and all that stuff, I and just being like, oh, okay, well, the fight's over now. I felt horrible because of that admittance of fault. And then I started finally being like, okay, I want to make more changes to myself after I met my husband, because then I was like, he offered me that job, and then I was surrounded by all these people who were now judging me, which I didn't have at home, obviously. And so being like reminded that, remember you made that mistake when you were a teenager? Well, here it is again. We're going to call you him and sir and stuff. And that made me feel horrible. Yeah, so I was like, I gotta be female again. This is horrible. So I started really like growing out my hair. Still didn't really do anything about my voice because I was hopeless about it, and I thought this was just it. I mean, I guess that's pretty much the gist of it. Because I didn't do anything about my voice, I did super hate it, and with everybody like judging me at that point, I wanted to avoid ever hearing like a recording of my voice. I wanted to avoid it really badly, and that's kind of a sign that maybe you should do something. So, hating yourself for like any part of you, it's draining and it's depressing. Yeah, I mean, it took me a really long time to finally be okay with everything, and it took me a couple years to finally be, you know, feminine again, because estrogen was like removing all the testosterone, well, most of the testosterone effects. And just over the years, I started feeling more confident, especially with voice training. Not that it's spectacular now, but it doesn't sound like a male range. That's my timeline, I guess. It's kind of haphazard, but there it is. Uh, you know, I'll be back with other videos on other topics. I'm done talking about myself, I guess. So, goodbye.